Islamists call for Sharia law in Australia, escalation or threat to democratic values. In a controversial development, Australia has witnessed a series of protests organised by a group of Islamist activists demanding the implementation of Sharia law as part of the country's legal system. These demands have sparked a wave of outrage and debate within Australian society, with many viewing them as a direct challenge to the democratic values and individual rights cherished by the Australian people. Protesters gathered in major cities, holding banners and chanting slogans calling for the immediate adoption of Sharia law.
You want to live under Sharia law? Go to a Muslim country.
It's not a game to play around with. It's not a playing card or something.
I think it's an awful idea, mate. I think it's the thin end of the wedge.
Totally goes against Australian rights, traditions and our heritage. It destroys our values, Australian values.
For them, Sharia is an inseparable part of their faith and a natural right to practice freely in a culturally diverse country like Australia. However, these demands have been met with harsh criticism from a broad segment of the population, who see them as incompatible with the secular identity of the country and a threat to Australian societal values. One citizen participating in a counter-protest remarked, "If you want to live under Sharia law, you can move to a Muslim country. This is not a place to impose religious laws on a democratic society." These sentiments echo widespread concerns that introducing Sharia law could undermine the rights and freedoms that form the cornerstone of Australia's legal framework. While Islamist protesters assert they are exercising their right to religious freedom, critics argue that implementing Sharia law conflicts with the democratic principles upon which Australia is built. The situation has become more complicated due to support for the protests from certain international organisations and religious groups, raising fears of external interference threatening Australia's sovereignty. The Australian government has taken a firm stance, with the Prime Minister emphasising the importance of maintaining the country's secular legal framework and protecting the rights and freedoms of all citizens. He has called for calm and dialogue as a means to resolve the differences. In an official statement, he said, "Australia is a diverse and inclusive society, but we also have a responsibility to safeguard our core democratic principles and ensure that no single group imposes its will on the rest of the population." Despite these efforts to de-escalate tensions, fears persist that the conflict could spiral into violence. Both sides have accused each other of using intimidation tactics and incitement, complicating an already heated debate. This conflict is not merely a local issue, but part of a global discussion on balancing religious freedom with national sovereignty in multicultural societies. As Australia navigates this sensitive balance, key questions emerge. How can religious minorities' demands be reconciled with the secular values underpinning the democratic system? Is it possible to integrate certain aspects of Sharia law into Australia's legal framework without undermining its foundational principles? Or do these demands represent a significant challenge to democratic values that must be firmly resisted? Ultimately, these questions remain unanswered. What is clear, however, is that the debate surrounding Sharia law and the role of religion in public life will continue to be a hot topic in Australia and around the world.